Yes, I'm from ARC, and we are working on this chain abstraction space from last 1 year, talking to around 40 to 50 dApps, their problem in the multi-chain space. So I will talk more about what exactly is a multi-chain for a dApp, right? We have seen many particular dApps. If you go on DeFi Llama and if you check, 2 out of 3 top 15 dApps by TVL and volume, they are multi-chain. They exist on multiple chains. They deploy their contracts on all the chains. They manage the pool there, and it is a big pain for all of them because liquidity management there is a big pain. You can't make deep pools of every asset that you want to support on all the chains that you are going to support, and it is uh, pain in the ass for them. And multi-chain is never truly multi-chain if you think about it. When you talk to dApps, let me give an example of SushiSwap, right? They have their particular token Sushi, and let's say it gets minted on 7 different chains. The token gets minted on 7 different chains, but the staking contract and the other liquidity pool, that is the deep liquidity pool, that exists on one chain only, right? So I get the Sushi token on Arbitrum, but I can't do anything much with it because the staking contract doesn't exist on Arbitrum, right? And this is the problem with all the protocol tokens and many chains that are trying to work on the multiple chains. And so we were talking to GMX, and they mentioned that whenever a new chain come up, right? So let's say Mantle came up, right? They wanted to tap the liquidity of Mantle, but putting all that effort of going to a new chain, deploying the contract, making the pools there is not worthwhile because everyone knows that no one is sure about, right, that how long that particular traction on that new chain is going to last. So they get the FOMO of going to a new chain, but they are never sure that should they put that much effort or not. Yeah, and okay, this is going to, yeah. So everyone knows about the rise of rollups, right? Nowadays, every new day we can see new chains coming up, new rollups with Unichain. It is only going to expand. That in the near future we will see all the big apps they are going to their single chain. They launch their particular chain, and now they want all their liquidity to come there. So we'll talk more about it, right? And everyone knows what are the benefit of rollups. It is for increasing throughput of Ethereum, for the scalability, throughput of the dApps, and consolidate. So this is a prediction that we are making here, that with time, in the chain abstracted world, where chain doesn't matter for the user, all the dApps will want that their liquidity will constitute on a home chain. That chain can be an Arbitrum Optimism chain, or that can be their own chain like Unichain. But with this particular angle to this liquidity problem, there comes a very big problem of liquidity fragmentation, right? Uh, with the number of apps increases and number of chains increases, when a user wants to go on a new chain, they want to interact with a dApp, they have to bridge their funds, which is very difficult to do. And if they do it, they do not want to keep their funds on a new chain and stay there, and they do not have much option. So let's say if the user goes to a Unichain, they might not have the best option for lending and borrowing, right? So they have to come to maybe Aave chain or DYDX chain in the future. So that is a very big problem for them. Uh, it reduces the usability of the protocol. So every user knows about it, right? For going to a new chain, they have to bridge the fund, which is not very good UX. And then they think that maybe so this particular dApp moved to a new chain, and now maybe I don't want to use this particular dApp. I might use any of the other alternative that exist on the chain that I prefer, right? We have seen some of these things with the current dApps that shifted to their own chain after they were on Ethereum or Arbitrum, and they suffered from some of the users being lost in that particular process. Also, it is very capital inefficient. Nobody talks about it much, but when you think about it, your particular liquidity exists on one particular chain, let's say Ethereum or Gnosis, and now you have minor pools on all the other chains, right? You have minor pool on 5 different chains. Now the user gets that particular token on a new chain. They want to trade with it. They want to swap. But since the liquidity is not that deep, it is very costly for the user to swap because of the slippage and because of the uh, not having that much density in the pool. So if they have done that particular trade on the home chain, be it Ethereum or any other chain, that particular trade would have been so much better. So this is also capital efficient for the dApps as well. Now solvers come for the rescue. All the problems that I mentioned here in the chain abstraction world, we all know of a solution that exists for it. That is the solvers. And we love solvers. I am personally a fan of it. And we see the future of dApps as full of solvers. There would be more dApps that would be using solver-based bridges and other solver-based products for the movement of the funds. But there exists a problem in the market with the current solver system. There are more solver networks in the market at the moment than the solvers itself. So that is there that everyone is building a solver network. They are trying to make it decentralized. They are trying to make it more equally distributed for the users. But there are only 10 to 15 players in the solver market that are making all the trades. And there is also a secondary problem that people don't talk about it, right? If there is a dApp that is in top 10 or top 20 TVL range, onboarding is not that much difficult for them because their particular dApp is already very popular. So when they say that, when an infra company or any other company goes to them and they say that maybe you should go chain abstracted for making the onboarding user for a particular onboarding experience for a particular user easier, they say that they don't care about it that much because there is no economic incentive for them. If you see the journey or the cycle of a chain abstracted transaction, the only party or the player that is making the money is the solver that is doing that particular transaction. So for that particular dApp, it is just the users that are coming to it, but since the dApp is big enough, they don't care about it that much because they can get the users from, they can always maybe ask the users to bridge the fund. They know that it is going to be a bad experience, but since the dApp is big enough, they will come for it. So the economic incentive of running a solver is also lacking for a particular dApp. That's why we haven't seen that much of a, I would say, big adoption of solver-based bridges in the big 10 or 20 TVL dApps. Now we propose a solution for it, right? We have talked to many dApps, shown this particular architecture to a lot of people to get their feedback, and this is what we came up with. dApp on solvers. So what exactly is a dApp on solvers? dApps put their own liquidity into let's say, a pool that exists on one chain. So there exists a coordination layer. That coordination layer takes that particular liquidity. It is the job of that coordination layer to manage that liquidity pool on every chain that the dApp wants to support. They maintain some rebalancing mechanism in it. There are solutions out there in the market. Our friends at Everclear are already working on it. Then there exists a system of spoke router contract that exists on all the chains. And now since the dApp is owning this particular architecture and it is being tailor-made for a dApp, they can control the functionality of this router contract. I will talk more about it, that what all benefit this particular router contract brings to this whole architecture. But yeah, apart from it, there can exist a decentralized or a centralized relay system, because apart from liveliness, that it doesn't matter much if it is decentralized or not. And then there exist a custom changes in their particular contract. So let's say GMX wants to go go multi-chain in the chain abstracted manner. They want to implement this particular architecture. They have to make some changes in the contract where they have to remove the dependency of message or sender. Now I took the example of GMX while explaining this architecture. You can see this particular flow, that how it will work for them. GMX is perfect for this particular example because they do not need to make the message or sender changes in their contract because their system already runs with relays. So the dependency doesn't exist there. But if you see, so let's say the user exists on Polygon. The user makes a deposit. So the user's intent is that user wants to long ETH on GMX worth $100. User make the deposit on GMX Pulse router. There exists a coordination layer where the ledger exists. The ledger keeps the record that this particular transaction is being made. And it also keeps the record of the vault that exists on both Polygon and the Arbitrum. Now, after this transaction is being passed through a GMP or maybe a other message passing solution, the request is being received by a Pulse router on the Arbitrum. That particular router will take the liquidity from GMX pool. So in the starting, I mentioned that GMX for this particular thing, they just need to maintain a pool on their particular chain. So that exists the GMX LP that I mentioned there. So the router takes $100 from that particular LP, it deposits to the exchange router, and that trade is initiated. Now, in the current world scenario, GMX doesn't mint any LP token, but let's say some LP tokens are also get minted. Now, the beauty of this particular architecture is, since GMX is controlling everything, this LP token contract exists on Polygon as well, right? GMX LP token contract. And now, since it is not a generalized solver, it is their particular relays, their particular network that is running this particular thing, they can give the minting right to this particular router contract, because that is dedicated for GMX only. So for the user, they made the deposit, and they immediately got the LP tokens for that particular trade. They didn't feel any switching off chain. They didn't feel that their particular funds got bridged or something. It was completely chain abstracted, completely native transaction that the user made for this particular trade. A periodic clearing of funds happens, which I mentioned the rebalancing is, and there are multiple providers for it, or if the coordination layer wants to make something of their own, they can do it. Now, what do we achieve from it? If you think about it, there was one particular investment that the protocol made in this architecture, which was the deposit of their liquidity, which they do not have to make in a generalized generalized solver system. So liquidity consolidation on the home chain is something that I talked about in the starting. So that get achieved, and that is one of the biggest sell, I would say, if you think about it. So the dApp doesn't need to maintain multiple liquidity pools on multiple chains. They can exist on one particular chain, and all their liquidity will exist there. That particular chain will have the deepest liquidity of that particular token. The trades would be most capital efficient, because the slippage charges and the rates would be very less. So that is the main goal. Apart from it, there is customizable bridgeless onboarding. So onboarding is something that many people are trying to solve here, and we see many of the other generalized solver system pitching it out. But this customizable onboarding means that that particular last trade of LP token get minted on Arbitrum and moving back to Polygon. That is not possible in any of the generalized solver system, because the dApp cannot trust with the minting permission of a token on any of the generalized systems. So that gets achieved. Capital efficiency I talked about. And also there's a boost APY for the users who are depositing on the main LP pool. If you think about it, the users in the current scenario, the user have to go on multiple chains if they want to get the most advantage of their particular asset that they have. They have to go on multiple chains, deposit their particular token on multiple LPs to get the most advantage. In this particular scenario, they can stay on one chain. They can put their deposit on one particular LP. They get more trading volume, because every other chain is using this particular liquidity pool only for all the trades. So that also brings a lot of APY for the end users. Now, with every system, and since this is a research talk, I want to talk about the risk and the security assumptions that we also make. There can exist the liquidity imbalance, and which means the inventory rebalancing. We have to trust the inventory provider. If someone is going to do the periodic rebalancing, you have to become sure about how exactly they are going to do it. And if one chain, so this also brings the decentralized factor to the whole system. Let's say the pools get, let's say the dApp choose to go on a new chain, let's say Mental, and for a particular period of time, there were existing a lot of transaction there. The pools become more and more strong there. With time, incentive died or something happened, and now people are not trading on Mental anymore. So that particular automatically through the rebalancing system, that particular pool that exists there might get dried up. Now, if some user comes up on mental after some time and they want to make the trade, it might get difficult for them to get the trade going. But it's an edge case and can get taken care of with some minimum liquidity number. There are obviously execution safeguard if we want to take this further away from EVM and also take it to Solana execution system and other move VMs that are coming up and all the other execution system. It will become, I would say, complex, and you have to think about how the particular proofing system will work in multi VM environment. Solver reliability is also something I talked about it in between, where the relay system can be made decentralized, where we do not rely on one particular set of relayers to make the end transactions, which are named the solvers in the general world. So that can be made decentralized, and then the liveness won't be any issue, and people would be able to make the transaction easily. What are the future possibilities with this particular scenario? Shared. If you saw the title of this particular talk, it was shared solvers, right? I talked about DApp on solvers, but I didn't talk about the shared solvers. In the future possibility, there can be two dApps who, so let's say they made a deposit of 100K in their particular LP that they are putting up, and that restrict the system for not allowing trades above 100K, right? In the future system, we can see that maybe many dApps come together and they say that we trust each other, so we trust each other for running that particular router contract permission, and we are pooling our liquidity, so it becomes 1 million, let's say. And then the order side would be big enough for anyone to make the trade, even for the bigger users. So that is one future possibility. There's also cross-chain atomicity. So currently I talked about one asset being on Polygon. So let's say the user has USDC on Polygon and they want to long ETH on Arbitrum. So they have to provide 100 USDC. But in the future, if we see the hybrid or the complex architecture of this particular system, they can put 50 USDC, 30 USDT, and maybe $20 worth of Pol token. So that is also possible. It is just the router being modified to become more complex. So that is one thing, and we are seeing multiple ERCs with 4337 and 7702 that can take the permission out of this architecture, and then users would be able to, they do not even have to make the first call of deposit. They can give the signing permission, and they do not need to move to a smart account with 7702. They can stay on their EOA wallet and just give the permission, and then they are good to go. What this accomplishes that, let's say for some of the particular dApps, they do not want to mint the LP token on Polygon. They want to stay on Arbitrum only. In that particular case, a smart wallet will be minted on Arbitrum. The funds will get deposited there, and the user would be the only one who has the key because it's a smart wallet. So that also unlocks a lot of use cases where it can be an NFT that is not there on Polygon or Ethereum, that only exists on Arbitrum. So that particular NFT can get minted to a specific wallet that is being controlled by user on Polygon, but the NFT exists on Arbitrum. So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for listening.